What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Year Pass podcast with me, Suddy, and this is Shyam. International break is over. I love it. It's back. I think it's a hugely anticipated weekend. Obviously, Ronaldo coming back and a lot of new signings. But we're going to talk about a big game today. I think it's in terms of football, could be one of the best games of the weekend. Chelsea taking on Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge. It's on Saturday. Chelsea obviously had a really good start to the season. Um, they fought. Jesus, I've just forgotten. They beat Liverpool. They did, right?
They
No,
drew.
they drew Liverpool. Sorry, just had a blank there. No, they've had a good bit, but drawing to Liverpool and Liverpool look at it the same way. It's a point one rather than 2 points dropped. I think. Villa, a little bit kind of shaky of a start. They played Brentford and Brentford. I know the last game 1-1. Always a tough start. You've always said, Sham, the worst time to play newly promoted side, except for Norwich, is at the start of the season. So talk us through the team news, man. We're just talking through the feel of the game, the narrative of the game, what Chelsea's feeling going into it before you get to team news.
Yeah. With Chelsea, I mean, yeah, really good start. They won their first two games. They bullied Arsenal. Didn't really. It was sort of a warm up for them, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
that Liverpool game was a really absorbing game.
yeah.
It was genuinely could have gone anywhere in the first half. Second half, Chelsea sat back, but they looked comfortable. I remember before we did the video post of that game, I went to look at the highlights of that game because it was really just to see the Reece James
Mm,
handball. And if you look at the highlights of the second half, the highlights stopped at 59 minutes because Chelsea just
yeah,
absorbed Liverpool's punch. Liverpool
yeah,
had three
yeah,
sort of really good chances at the beginning of the half, and then it just
yeah.
sort of died off there. And that's not Liverpool wasting it. That's just Chelsea taking that hit from Liverpool and just absorbing it and controlling that game. So definitely, like you said, they'll see
Yeah.
a point. Anyone sees a point in Anfield as a point gain, but particularly when you're
Mm,
one man down for 45 minutes. So
yeah.
good stuff for them. Yeah, Aston Villa. It's interesting because they've played two of the promoted teams in their first three games, and that's just really like you were saying, it's the worst time to play a promoted side. This is a
Mm,
big game for them because Chelsea do have issues around team selection. Um, Aston Villa, I'm not exactly sure if they're equipped to take advantage of it. So this game, it's not going to be a typical. It's not going to be exactly what you expect of a Chelsea Aston Villa type game because there will be players missing and some players perhaps not playing with full fitness.
mhm. Yeah. Chelsea, they have a few kind of ins and outs. Kante's could be a doubt. Lukaku's a bit of a doubt. Havertz has a flu. Reece James suspended from the handball, which I think has been unfortunate that he got a red card. I think it was a handball, but it has been unfortunate. And then the big kind of news in terms of missing players this weekend. United is affected by it. Liverpool heavily affected by it. Is players coming back from South American duty? They have to isolate, so they're not playing this weekend. Um, and just talking about Villa before we get to the actual game. Yeah, they don't have Grealish and they're struggling, man. I think they I think it's no surprise, and I think they tried to plan as much as best they can. I think they did have a very good transfer window, but it just hasn't gelled together. I don't expect them to go down, even though they've had a very rocky start and people kind of talking about it. I just expect it to pick up in a month or two, but this isn't the game to pick up. Chelsea, who who's going to be a key man for Chelsea, and how do you think they're going to approach the game? Because they have what a player like when Liverpool got Fabinho, I was jealous of that. They got Saul. I almost wish United went and got him over Ronaldo in a certain sense, just to plug that hole. I think he's going to be amazing. So how does Chelsea kind of line up for this game?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think just with Saul, it sounds like he had the chance to go to United and turned it down. So that's a bit of a thing, considering he would definitely start for United, and he's not a guaranteed starter for Chelsea. They've got possibly the best centre midfield pairing in the league in Kante and Jorginho. So it's a big call from him. He I think wants to win trophies, but yeah, it'd be interesting with certain players out. Havertz is also a dad. Is he's experiencing flu-like symptoms. I don't know if that's COVID or if it's just a flu. It's hard to tell
Mm-hmm.
these days with the information that clubs give. But yeah, it's Chelsea will have a few outs, but Aston Villa have actually got bigger outs through the two Argentine players, so Buendia and Martinez. So their goalkeeper and their obstinately Grealish replacement. So that Aston Villa have actually, funnily enough, got bigger outs. But Chelsea do
Yeah,
have a few players with niggles here and there. There's also the
yeah.
Champions League games midweek. It will be the first
Mm-hmm.
set of Champions League games. So you almost wonder with guys like Lukaku and Kante who possibly could play and could probably play at 80, 90%. Might they just get a rest because the Champions League games are midweek and they also want to start the Champions League well? I get the feeling that Kante and Lukaku might actually be on the bench and sort of come on if they need to, as opposed to playing
Yeah.
the full 90 minutes.
Yeah. And in my opinion, I think Saul Niguez again, perfect signing for any team. He could fit into almost any of the big six teams. Any team. I mean, obviously any team in Spain. He's a perfect signing. What I think he brings is he brings a bit more finesse that maybe Kante doesn't have, and that's not a in no way kind of indictment on how good or bad Kante is. He's an amazing player, but he brings this kind of ferocity that I think any team wants. And apparently for the last 2 years, he's been playing kind of out of position and kind of not complaining about it. And he said that. Did you see that in his first interview for Chelsea, or maybe it
I
was
haven't
just
seen
just
the
before?
interview, but I know a bit about his sort
Yeah,
of
it was a famous thing. It was
versatility.
quite a kind of big point he made. He said, you're going to see the real Saul. And I wonder what Tuchel said to him, because I didn't know he was offered to United in all that Ronaldo kind of jubilation. I think maybe United fans didn't see this, but I think a lot of United fans, I think sensible fans would take, in a sense, would take Saul over Ronaldo. The nostalgia lasts for 2 years. Saul's got about 4 or 5 years in him. It's going to be immense. And yeah, you're right. Champions League in midweek, which United's back in there, which is nice to see. But Chelsea, they're going to defend their title. And at the minute, if you talk about the best team in the last 10, 15 years, it is Chelsea. Or this kind of last 2 decades, it is Chelsea by trophies. So he is going to a big team. How do you see the game going? Though I think this is Chelsea's in an easy game for Chelsea. I think you kind of disagree, and I think you think it's going to be a bit tougher. Why do you think that?
Well, firstly on Saul, yeah, he's a very versatile player. He can play in that 3-4-3 they've got. He could play in the midfield
Hmm.
too, in the center. He could play left wing back. He could, in
Hmm.
theory, play a bit higher. He won't because
Left wing back, really?
he could play left wing back. Yeah, he's played left mid a lot for Atletico.
Okay, okay.
And he can play left wing back. He could play in that sort of high attacking third position. Up front, he won't, but he could if he had to. He can even play centre back. In a back three, he'd be very comfortable in one of the centre back positions, a bit like a Luke Shaw. And he's a strong player as well. We tend to think of Spanish players. We think of guys like Xavi and Iniesta, but he's just strong. He's like
Yeah, he's the
6'1".
ferocity. He
He's
brings a
built a bit like a
ferocity.
fridge. He's
Yeah.
an Atletico player, so he's got physical. Um,
Yeah.
he'll be athletic and fit. One thing about, but just before I talk about the game, in England, there's this fascination about people in positions. So you talk about, say, Frank Lampard, centre mid, attacking centre mid, really good player, Frank Lampard. But could he, if he ever played anywhere else, people are like, oh, can Frank Lampard play in any other position? And you'd have questions over whether he actually could. I'm sure with time he could do it, but rather than building players to play a certain position, European teams and Spanish teams build players to be able to play as footballers
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
skills, and they can use those
Absolutely.
skills
Yeah.
in certain positions. So they tend to be
Yeah.
more adaptable. Donny van der Beek's probably one who can play. He can play 6, he can play 8, he can play 10. It was maybe partly the reason he hasn't really found a role for himself at United, for example.
Yeah.
But Saul will bring that adaptability, and he's not going to start as a first team player, so that's to his advantage that he can be
Mm.
moved into several positions. And it'll be interesting. I don't think he'll play too much of left wing back given Chelsea's resources there, but he could play if there was an injury crisis. In
Yeah.
regards to the game, I mean, it's Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, so I expect them to go forward, to bring it forward, have that sort of 70% possession. Aston Villa will try and counter. They'll have guys like Traore back, Leon Bailey, back. So I think that they will sit and play on the counter. They'll really be looking for Danny Ings to, he'll get 1 or 2 chances, and they hope he'll score 1 or 2 of those goals. So that's, I think, the way that the game will go. I think it'll be a bit of a struggle for Chelsea, partly because of all this travel. Some of the players, and I can't sit here and say this player has this many days, but there will be some players going through a quarantine process as well.
Yeah.
Well, England's a bit like if you come from certain countries, you take X days quarantine depending
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the red
Kind of
zone.
staggered.
So
Yeah.
that will
bracketed.
affect Chelsea because they have a lot of international players.
Yeah.
I do think they will control the game. The question is, can they break down Aston Villa? That to me is the big thing. Have they got what it takes to break down Aston Villa? Particularly if Lukaku isn't playing, I'm a lot less confident about saying Chelsea can do it without Lukaku in the side. And I do not expect Lukaku to play 90 minutes. I expect him to come off the bench if they need him to come off the bench.
Yeah, and these are the games Chelsea's we were very, I think in one video we very aptly summed up Chelsea season, or maybe it was the season before. No, it was last season. Sorry, we only done this one season. Chelsea had these spells of incredible performances, and then they had these huge dips under both Frank Lampard, Tuchel in the league. Obviously, in the Champions League they went on to win it, but they have these kind of ebbs and flows. And I think Lukaku playing and managing his game time, and getting goals, which I think he's going to score many goals this year. It's going to be huge for them. And a game like this, man, whether it's 1-0, whether it's 3-0, these are the games Chelsea need to put away with as many goals as they can. It's an obvious statement, but these are the games they're going to look back. And even you talk about teams that nearly won the league or should have been up there. They look back at games like these when they drew 1-0. They were like, "What were we doing? We're so much better than this." So yeah, absolutely. I think we'll finish up there, Sham. Can I get a score and a key player?
I'm going to go 1-0. I'm going to go 1-0 for Chelsea. I think that they'll nick it. I think it'll be a very scrappy goal. And I think maybe it's from a set piece or something like that. I don't expect Chelsea to set the world on fire, but I expect them to control the game. I think that they're very good at stopping counterattacks. My key man, funnily enough, given the score, because this would go against my score, I'm going to go with Danny Ings. I think Danny Ings will get one chance in this game. And I think that if he can take that chance, it completely changes the game.
Yeah. I've just completely forgotten he plays for Villa now, but he had a beautiful bicycle kick the other day. I'm going to go 3-0 Chelsea, 3-0, maybe 3-1. Thinking of Danny Ings, he might get a goal, but I think it's going to be a bit of an embarrassing day for the Villa crowd. Lovely chat as always, Sham. Chelsea versus Villa at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. It's going to be a huge game. Good football. I predict good football. Although the fanfares are all going to be in Old Trafford if they show the game on TV in the UK, but I think the rest of the world will be able to watch it. Lovely. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We are the 5 Yard Pass podcast. My name is Suddy, and this is Shyam. Keep football simple, and as always,
keep passing, guys.